information on core topics such as the disciplining of the child, the integral involvement of men, and the empowerment of women in the family, parenting and associated laws, child and drug abuse, domestic violence, and teenage pregnancy. Call in to air your views and make your contributions at 459 7885 or 459 7888. Family Matters, 88.5, Sufre FM.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our listeners. Thank you for having us back. I'm hoping today we get some call-ins. Persons are not calling in. Make your contributions. Okay. This morning we're hoping to have a very informative program. And with me, I have a special guest, very special guest this morning. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself to you and also the topic that we're going to discuss. Over to you, Miss Combi.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Miss Crescentia Combi. I am the principal of the Sufre Comprehensive Secondary School. So today I have been invited to speak on the rights of the child within the context, of course, that we are celebrating the month of children in November. And I'm hoping that we do get questions because there are many things to clarify.
Most definitely, Miss Combi. And I work very closely with Miss Combi, and let me tell you, she's an awesome person to work with, and also she is very intelligent, and she knows she knows her stuff. So this is why today I felt it fitting to open Children's Month with her, so that she can educate us on the rights of a child, and not only just the rights of a child, but the responsibilities with that rights, and also the stakeholders along with the children and us who are responsible for these children.
Okay, so the rights of the child was born out of agreement of the UN, the United Nations General Assembly. And of course, November 20th, 1989 was when all of the articles were agreed upon. They were agreed upon within the context of every child, well, definition of the term childhood. Childhood refers to that period in time prior to 18 years of age. In some countries who have agreed to the articles, age of majority, well, what they consider to be maybe a little lower. But for us in St. Lucia, we are in keeping with the rights, and it would be a child who is under the age of 18 years, which means that this rights holder or bearer um, has to be taken care of by the people responsible, the stakeholders. Now, the rights speak to the governments and how the governments should ensure that all stakeholders perform their duties. And these stakeholders will be, of course, the parents who birth those children, the family that takes care of those children, the schools where students attend, they are under 18, and all other agencies that speak to the growth and development of children. Also, the terms, there's a preamble to the rights. So if you Google the rights, you will see that the rights were agreed upon on certain terms, and I just want to mention a few of them. It recognizes that childhood is a special time. Children are not adults. They have to grow and get there. We all have to go through the phase and get there. Therefore, the way in which we treat children and we make them understand certain things below the age of 18 has to be treated specially.
I like to hear that you said children are below the age of 18, because we have a misconception here um, in St. Lucia, some persons, that when a child reaches 16, the age of consent that makes them an adult. So I'm happy that you're reading this here and stating that a child is below the age of 18. So that does not mean because a child is of age of consent, a 16-year-old, that means that they are now adults and they're permitted to drink alcohol and do everything that adults are doing. So over to you, Miss. I'm happy that you clarified this.
Yes, and the rights allow the students at 16 to engage because scientifically, this is when the body is very, very ready. It's very sexually driven. Therefore, the adults, the duty holders, have to ensure that the students know what they're getting into because their body may be responding in a way that their brain has not caught up on and their social context has not caught up on. At 16, a child would not be in school in 1965. But today, while I'm still in school, that's to show you how education has changed. So, whilst we have the consent for probably engagement in sexual activity because the body is at that stage of development, and so you have to now be looking at who you like, what you like, your parent is still responsible for you, and so it is their duty to protect you and to educate you on how you use that bodily need, if you want to call it that. Okay, so no, age of consent is not age of majority for us in St. Lucia.
I'm wondering, Ms. Kobe, when the policymakers and all the persons who agreed to have age of consent at the age of 16, whether they also thought of the responsibilities of that and added to the age of consent.
Well, they probably would have thought of the responsibility, but how much education are we doing to ensure that the stakeholders understand the responsibilities of question? So I try to do it at the secondary school level. If you look at any program that speaks to adolescent health and advocacy, it will tell you that it is unrealistic to try to bar students from sexual exploration because at the adolescent years, this is when it's at its peak. And so, what you have to teach the students is how to manage themselves.
But also, I find that some of our rights don't, it's not vis-a-vis with the consent. The reason being, you would tell me that I have been given a right to have sex. I've been given consent to have sex. With sex would come pregnancy. With sex would come STIs and so on. Why isn't it that a child can be allowed to buy some condoms at 16 or even get some contraceptives you'd think that. So a parent's consent, I understand that a parent need to supervise a child, but at the same time, if you're giving a child that right, you should also give the child a right at least to purchase some form of protection. I need your views on that.
Well, I agree. I actually, whilst they still need their parent support, a 16-year-old, if they can probably bring their birth certificate and prove they're 16 and they're facing a challenge and they come with, they should be able to because they have a right to protect themselves. I think the challenge, though, is I've faced that in discussion with people that to give them that liberty means you sending them. You're sending them. So, they believe if you put them on the contraceptives or you have them engaging, you basically giving them license and then you want to complain. But for me, if you at the age where you can and you're going to make the decision, and which is where the education comes prior to and at that point, and we try to do a lot of that at Sufra Comprehensive, speak to where they are. You were just at the school doing a session, speak to where they are and educate them, not because you're getting to that point that you should just go ahead. Are you responsible enough for what comes with it?
Exactly.
A baby can come, you could get chlamydia, and this is what your vagina is going to look like. You might get sores, you will get pus all over the place. Would you want that to happen to you? So, whilst we have that freedom, which is what one of the misconceptions generally about rights are, because you have the freedom, that does not mean you must.
Exactly.
You can choose not to. It is there for you to do, but you have to evaluate yourself and ask yourself, do I want to?
and also you have the freedom, but are you ready for the
Responsibility.
responsibilities of the freedom? So this
That's
is
right.
why today is very important. As much as we give the rights, we give the responsibilities as well of these rights.
Yes.
So
So it
yes.
ensures that children are, and it speaks to that, they are raised in a family environment full of love and happiness. Some parents don't understand why a school would put pressure on them to have a child happy. Not happy as in getting your, because you want an Max for $400 and I don't have $400, I'm going to do things to get you $400 shoes, but you must have a shoe.
Exactly.
And I have to teach you to appreciate that this is the shoe you can have for now. And anything you want, you can build it from here on. And I think that the entitlement is one of the places where we confuse happiness with fitting in and the fad and the fashion and the show off.
So true.
Happiness speaks to a child who can laugh with their parents,
Definitely.
can smile, can go to bed without worry of a griping belly, without worry of who's going to burn me because I did not do X, Y, and Z. Did I get my books for school? I have a project coming up. Can I afford to do the project? And just being happy, smiling, and enjoying life, not wanting everything that is above them and creating these situations. We do a lot of that, especially for adolescents, with markers of what makes you fit in, the expensive shoes, the expensive bags, and there's no expectation. So, giving love and happiness does not equate giving expensive items.
That is so true.
Okay, so this is one of the things that the rights speak to. Some of us don't know that.
Um, stick a little bit. I love that you brought this up. I want you to tell viewers, because I have been, as a parent yourself, with preteen, I would say preteen, with a parent yourself, how do you do it? Because you find a lot of parents come and they will say that, my child wants what's his playground? My child wants his playground. And this is what will make my child happy. How you mean I can give my child a playground because everybody has it, my child will not fit in? So how do you speak to that? How would you speak to a parent to maneuver, or as a parent
Parent,
yourself,
how I
how do you
maneuver.
do it?
Yes, my daughter doesn't
Right.
have one. She says next year she wants to get one, or maybe whatever is in. There's rewards, you know. You give children rewards for instance, she is highly academic. So if you keep up your grades, I can give you. We live in a system, you work and you get paid.
Definitely.
So if your child has not been presenting any challenges, they did something amazing, you can reward them that way. Currently, I said I do not ascend to fashions personally. And I am 100% certain when you become 18 years of age or you working and you have age to work, which by the way should be 14 in apprenticeship and 16 fully. Some of us don't know that. When you get to 14 and you want a part-time job and you want to save up for X and Y, of course, sure. But I am not going to overextend myself for fitting in. You have to learn to be satisfied with what your parent can provide you. And that's not just personally. I've had to give this talk with students in the school because there are, you have to make them look around. Some students are carrying daily $1,000. Their shoes are 400, the bag is 385, the pants you pay $75, you have the shirt, the crest, your boxer, your vest. To come to school every day whilst you step out of, we have not even spoken about the books you use for the day. You are dressed alone in $1,000. You cannot be in $1,000 and I must represent you in the school for misbehavior.
Exactly.
And we often make the mistake that if I give it to them, they will behave. No, you have to
No,
make
that
them
is so
work
true.
for it to
Exactly.
get it. And it might be difficult. I had a parent who said they don't know why the principal made a comment about the things. I mean, you misbehaving throughout the day. You don't want to learn. You don't want to carry the books that were bought for you in your expensive bag. You have a shoe box in the bag and you carrying that bag. What was the purpose of the bag? Wasn't it to hold the
Exactly.
books to learn?
Yeah. But even then, to Miss, you find that we were going on it because it's something that really gets to me. That we find the parents cannot afford. And with the help that we were given, you find that, for example, they were given like with $500 check for the students who did the CPE,
CPEA.
and that $500 goes to the spray ground bag. And next thing you know, only two notebooks are in this bag, and my mommy or my daddy cannot afford to buy me the books. I mean, where does the priority lie, parents? Because if you're going to buy such an expensive bag and it's going to be empty, like Miss Combi said, what's the
There's a
purpose of the
purpose of
bag?
it, yes. Well, it is something that has to do with values and values education, and like the rights speak to, the government of Saint Lucia has to use all the agencies available that we have available, because I form part of the government of St. Lucia as a leader of an educational institution, to really sensitize parents that some of the things we focus on are not necessary. And childhood is a very vulnerable part of the student's life. And the lessons you teach them then is what will go into adulthood. So some of the adults who will do things that they're not supposed to get material things just to fit in, you have to question maybe what type of values they were taught as children. Because one of the things I love, and just yesterday in class I told them, the mission is to ensure that we give you the skills and values that when we become old, you are very equipped to take care of us. As a teacher, you don't teach for today. You never teach for today. You teach for a lifetime. You teach for the future. That when I am not able and I have my retirement fund, I know the crop of students who are managing my retirement fund know what they're about.
But it's
Okay?
scary, Miss Combi.
It is, because we need to understand how the concept of childhood must be protected. So all of the rights speak to, yes, those freedoms and everything that the children have that they're entitled to. They must eat. They must be taken care of health wise. We look at some of them, but what comes with it? How do you set the context that they understand that in order for their rights to be fulfilled, they must respect the rights of others? Okay, so the convention is under that. It's, as you said, be prepared to live as an individual in a society, and it speaks to in the spirit of peace. Very important. How do the parents promote the spirit of peace? To speak to dignity, to be proud of who you are, to be beautiful just in who you are. You're dark, you fair, your hair is short, you big boned, you round, however you look, however you came, that you are beautiful and you're a superstar. Do we do that and build that dignity? And so we're going to take care of who we are because we love who we are. Tolerance for others, not because you don't like the dark skinned women and it's shabins you like, that you're going to bully a dark skinned person for their skin tone and all of those things. The concept of freedom. Freedom has boundaries. It's another thing that people don't understand.
Exactly.
I am free to say anything, but I have a responsibility to not infringe on the right of the person whom I am speaking of, to target them, to torment them, to cause them harm. So your freedoms always have boundaries. And if you breach them, you must be willing to take the consequences that come with them. And I will speak to that when we're looking at some of the rights, like the right to education, because some people figure because a child is a child age, they must be in school. Yes, they don't have to go to that particular school or in that way. They get a right to education, which the parents and the government has to discuss if they cannot comply with the institution that they are in. Because whilst they have rights and freedoms, so does everybody else's child.
Exactly.
Okay, and then we have equality and solidarity, how to be together, how to be united in a cause and to make things happen. You have the rights, actually say you have to get students to do that. Okay, and finally, the one I want to highlight, one of the parts of the preamble, is that you must take into account the importance of traditions and cultural values. We're killing our cultural values for North American ideology.
Indeed.
And this is a dangerous game to play. I just mentioned to one of my supervisors, Ministry of Education, yesterday. It's all good and nice to have different changes in legislation and policy. Do they match our culture? Do we have the resources to cater to that? And that's the big challenge for me as a young educational leader, with striking the balance between all of those new laws and policies come into play and what resources you have to handle the freedoms that are attached to them. Okay?
It's like I use it, I always say the responsibility attached to whatever it is, whatever decision that you take, there are responsibilities to it. And I'm happy to hear that Miss Combi is talking about our culture. Because I remember growing up, Miss Combi, I'm not sure if that happened to you, and at the school, the principal would say, no speaking Creole in the school, no speaking patois. Even sometimes at homes, well, not my home, but certain children will come and say, and my parents do not want me to speak Patois because only country bookies speak Patois. But now, what do you know? They are actually having teachers
Creole in the schools.
taught Creole in the school
Because
because our culture is dying out, our language is dying out.
that's right. And culture in terms of behavior too, greeting each other, those things that
Yes.
make us uniquely us, to promote solidarity, to promote peace. We got to a point, it's true, some of the older people in the communities used to really abuse it. Go and tell your mother you didn't greet them and then they beat
They
you.
get a beating. Oh,
Yes,
yes.
that was a little bit extra, but it was about the principle of the thing. And at our school, greeting is an important part of your daily life. They don't have to, if they, your parents don't have to let you greet people in the community, but when you're in school, you're going to greet your teachers and your teachers are going to greet you. I make that a big part of what we do. And actually, a student went to Sir Arthur, and some delegates from the region came with a young lady who worked with me at the teachers union level. And she said to me, Miss, I have to tell you, this was the most beautiful thing for me for the year. We were walking, a whole group of delegates, and we had two students who said, Good morning. And she said, Miss, I jump it. Children still saying that.
And
And she said,
thankfully,
Where? School had just opened. Where are you all from? Where you? And then she asked what school you all went to. And they said, Sufre Comprehensive. And then, oh yes. And then she said, Miss, that was so beautiful. She got goosebumps because young people now, everybody wants to leave the North American. You on your own, I'm on my own. This is not, we don't have the resources to live like that.
we don't.
Our culture is that of togetherness, and we have to promote, like the right says, solidarity. Because if we're promoting peace and solidarity, our youngsters will not engage in criminality. It starts at home. We know what they're doing. We hide them sometimes.
Because we were told that before, well, not before, it should still be happening, that it takes a community to raise a child. And this is part of what they mean by it takes a community to raise a child. But even the adults now, you greet them and they don't answer this. We had some workshops some time ago, and I spoke about greeting and your pleasantries and so on. Only to find out, a lady said to me that she went out there in the public and she saw a child, the child did not greet her. And she said, but say good morning. You need to say good morning. I think the child went to report home, and my goodness, whatever happened then. So we
That
need
happened to my vice principal.
it's really amazing. This.
It's amazing, and we mustn't lose it. Sometimes I know we get sidetracked in trying to be developed, but we mustn't lose the things that make us uniquely us. And let's take example from two things: from chichima, turmeric, and cannabis. The United States of America burnt all the cannabis on the goes on the Gopito. They spoke to the region, the terrors of cannabis. Of course, cannabis has its side effect as a drug, especially for children and smoking. But as a plant, it is extremely valuable. They made it law in their countries now, after they took all the species they want to grow it in their country for healing. When people used to they use their bush teas, true they didn't know quantity, and instead of enhancing what worked, you used to be told do not take pills, doctor. We met Dr. Tapey, whatever in the bush.
Yes.
They fought it and fought it. Coconut oil. Now we buy those things
We do.
because we like to lose what we know that works for us to what North America comes to say that they have not proven. And the Western society does that. It crashes cultures of places and come and talk about magic fruit sour soup. I'm sure you bathe in soursop leaves. You
Yes, I
drink
do.
soursop and you
Yes,
eat
I
ice soursop
do.
ice slowly.
Yes.
And then you would go and trade that for the juice you see on TV, Coca-Cola. And we're killing our society because of what we see out there and not
I am
appreciating what we
so,
have.
Miss Combi, I am so happy that you are here right now. I'm so happy to be hearing that. Because even in schools, you will find that you will send the children to school with the fruits like the soursop, with the golden
Guavas.
apples and the guavas, and they'll tell you these are things for home. You want the children to laugh at me. I won't go to school with that because, of course, they'll trade for the Coca Colas and the
And
Concos
the
and
and
so
the and
on.
the apple and grapes that
Yes,
spread endless.
yes.
Yes. So
We
that's the
have to change
reality, and
that.
it's a consciousness that people will probably see. Some of them say, "Okay, Dila." It's a consciousness that you have to build in your mind that you don't have to look like somebody else. You don't have to do what somebody else does if it doesn't work for you.
Exactly.
If
I'm
it's
happy to hear that.
detrimental to you, it doesn't work for you. Like people can wear 3-inch heels and walk about the place. I have a special need with my deformity. I can't wear heels, so I'm going to cry because I can't wear 6-inch heels. You have to learn to accept you and make things work for yourself,
Exactly. Be
which is what St.
comfortable.
Lucia needs to do. Learn to make things work within the resources that we have. And with the speaking on the rights, I want to be able to promote rights every day because people fought for those rights.
Definitely.
They fought for them, but they also fought for the responsibilities that come with the rights that we forget all
All
the
the
time.
time. Yes.
The rights are divided into, well, two parts. You have rights 1 to 54, is it? Yes. So from 43 to 54, it only speaks to the articles. It will explain how the government and policymakers are to roll out, implement those rights. So that's the technical part of it. But from rights 1 to 42, it speaks to what the duty holders need to do for the rights bearers. Okay, so the first one is to recognize that a child is under the age of 18. Whether the child think they are a big woman or big man, or they look like they're a big woman or big man, or they made a decision that a big woman or big man should have taken, they're a child. And I say that with all the passion in my heart for the last incident we had when one of my students was reported missing. I do not do social media because I think it's a waste of valuable time. Unless you're promoting a business, you're doing something and you're making positive change. I don't have time for social media. Backlash and gossip and abusing people is not what the app was created for.
Not at all.
So when you tell me the child, and I will see comments of where the child was or her intentions, and I had to think, but don't we understand that whether the child made a decision or not, because we do not know why the child was reported missing? We don't have the information, huh? Whether or not she chose to go, she's a child.
Exactly.
The only place she can be is with her parents, and whether government of St. Lucia sends her, whether they withdraw her from her parents or they send her to school, which she must go to because she's under the age of 16. So we must find her.
And added to that, Miss, we are the only agencies responsible for children. Or we are mandated to protect them. And as an agency, even when we remove a child from a home, we cannot do so on our own. We have to
To
take the
go through
matter
the
to court.
process.
It's a process. So when you have persons say, of course, this child is a big woman and left, it cannot happen this way. And I'm hoping that, of course, the persons responsible for that are taken to task.
Indeed. And we should be very careful ourselves to not do that. We should be very sensitive to certain things and to understand that at a certain age that we have to, I'm not saying don't give consequences. There are times you definitely have to be very, very firm. but you have to get the person within your care and then issue the consequences, but not allow them to roam free, which is another thing that we're going to speak of. So that first right is that under the age of 18, that all children, irrespective of their age, their gender, their sex, their race, their class, every child, no matter where they're from in the world, they should have those rights. And then it begins the part I find that we ignore a lot, even my agency that I work with. Right number 3 speaks to, and it says, when adults make decisions, they should think about how their decisions will affect children. All adults should do what is best for children, not what they want, what is best for them. Governments should make sure children are protected and looked after by their parents. So the government agencies, including the educational institutions, your department, especially Miss, have to hold the parents accountable. The children were birthed by you, and you must take up your responsibility. Sadly, we have no consequences for most of these parents. If we arrest them and we send them to jail, who's taking care of the children? Who's feeding them? We have no home to send them. And so a lot of parents just escape with not sending their children to school, escape with not taking responsibility when their children are not supervised and they go to somebody's house and go and mash up the person's thing. They want to quarrel, when you approach them to say, but your child did. They have to understand below the age of 18, they are responsible for these children.
And it's also sad, Miss Combi. I know you're going to come under a child must attend school education. But when you hear some people are using religion and saying, because I am such and such, I'm not going to name because I don't want to see that I'm targeting, that I'm in such a culture, I'm such in a religion or whatever, and I do not want my child in the public system or whatever. You keep that child at home. Do not send that child to school. It is our right to educate a child. Okay, you're thinking this way that you do not want to send your child to school in whatever system you call it. God forbid, lo and behold, you fall and you die. Where is that child? What is happening?
But there is provision for not sending your child to a school. There's homeschooling that the government supervises. So you have to be able to be equipped enough to take that option.
And how many of them do the homeschooling even properly?
Okay, they have to do, there's a process. You have to go through the curriculum. You have to ensure that the child is assessed because the government is responsible. Once you live in a state, the government is. So you don't have to go into a building, but you need to follow the requirements that the government asks of you. Okay, so this one is very big. They must be looked after by their parents. What powers we have, sadly, as a third world country to really enforce that, I'm not sure. Now it has a delimitation. If the parent is not able to, the government must ensure that another person is available to do so if needed. Okay, so your parents die, your parents are unfit, they suffer from mental illness or a stroke or some physical ailment. The government's responsibility, I guess that's where your department comes. They must place the child in a family.
Because it said that all children are children of the state.
State.
And we represent the state to ensure that they are cared for.
All right. And then government should make sure that people and places responsible for looking after children are doing a good job. So we need to keep checks on each other as government agencies to ensure we're doing a good job. If I have a student in crisis as a school leader, I have to put some pressure on Miss. If Miss has a student as one of her clients who's not accessing, not performing, she's with all authority to ask me, Miss, what's going on with this child? Why am I not seeing any results? Is it that he or she's not going to classes? Is it that he or she's not cognitively capable? She's within her right to ask. And I'm within my right to say, Miss, you have one of your students do some buffing up. They're not doing as they should. And therefore, that's why this partnership for me is so important. And we have other partners. We'll mention their names just now. But we do for the right number 3 is not just about what children want or what's convenient for us. We don't want to take time to make local juice because it takes time to cut golden apple, scrub it, cut it, peel it. That's a whole minute. Just buy a set of box juice and we okay. We don't want to comb them for the entire week. Leave them with braids or some hairstyle that the hair have endless dandruff, and we don't have time to wash it yet because we don't get the off yet. At the end of the day, are we doing what's in the best interest of the child, not what is convenient to the parent? That's what the rights speak to. Are we doing a good job with them in St. Lucia? I don't know. Um, for me, the right, I guess we really have to look at is 28 and 29, right to education, and then right to education for persons with disability. Um, so every single child must receive an education. I have been in great debates that every single child is not entitled to a particular school. They must receive an education. The government of St. Lucia now has to look at issues and determine how that's done. So you don't get to come to school and cause disturbance and disrupt everybody in the school every single day of your life and for you to be entitled to be in that school. There is consequence for you. Whilst in issuing the consequence, the government now has a responsibility to ensure you educated somewhere. But it does not have to be in that space that you think you have a right to be in. And I want parents to really understand that the schools are created to educate the students. Your one child cannot be disrupting the process of 28 others, 29 others, however many are in the class, because you feel you're entitled to be there. You have a right not to a school, you have a right to education.
That is quite correct.
Okay.
Because this is when persons they kind of marginalize or even place there's this stigma attached to even special education, where they will tell you some time ago I heard them talking about um, inclusive education, where they would it almost sounded or seemed like they wanted to do away with the special education schools and have all
All
children
students, yeah.
come to a public school. So where it can work with a lot of training and of course resources, but we cannot just, as you're saying, Miss Combi, just come without the resources, without the responsibilities and say, this is what is going to happen. So this is why there are particular schools for particular children to help them with their special needs. So you are quite correct
Yes.
that you are entitled to an education. That doesn't mean that it is at a particular school we're seeing, but an education.
Yes. So very correct. And inclusivity these days is a word. I think it's a business plan. I don't even want to get into inclusivity there. But in rights 28, 29, 30, we speak to children the right to education. There's the let me read the right exactly how it appears in the article, because some people may not get every right. When you look at the full article, every right has the responsibilities right afterwards. If you're looking at a summary, you only see the right. So it says that state parties recognize the right of the child to education, and with a view to achieving this right progressively. So not everything North America can do with the right to education that we have the money to do. So we can't get there as fast as they can. Or if that's not the model we want, like we want the Swedish model because they're considered the best model, we don't have money like Sweden. So we can't get there. We cannot just take Sweden's thing and say, boy, they're doing well, let's take it. We don't have the same culture or the resources. Okay? So the right progressively and on the basis of equal opportunity, they shall, in particular, make primary education compulsory and available free to all. So every single child must have access to primary education. Okay, so if you're choosing to homeschool because of certain religious requirements, you must follow the curriculum which the government has said that primary school students or primary education should encompass. You don't just choose what you're teaching. All right. It must encourage the development of different forms of secondary education, including general, vocational education, and make them available and accessible to every child. And take appropriate measures such as the introduction of free education and offering financial assistance in case of need. So we do that. Every child here, because of universal secondary education from 2006, has access to a secondary school. And it's up to them now to embrace the opportunity and make the best of it, which is the part that they don't take the responsibility for sometimes. It also says to make higher education accessible, and I know we have programs such as SRDF has a program where they're giving tertiary scholarships now. So we're the other agencies are trying to play their part to make sure that happens. At SCSS, we try to do general education and vocational education because it is the only secondary school in the district, and we want to cater to everybody. Okay, so we have doing that. We must take measures to encourage regular attendance and the reduction of dropout rates. That is a right, that is a responsibility of the government to ensure. So, Miss, when you are pleading with your parents that the child should be going to school, they need to understand that's part of the right. Sadly, we have no consequences for many of them. I have several students. I hope if some of you are hearing or you are neighbors with some of them and you know they're supposed to be at SCSS and they're not at school, for no reason. It's not that they have been withdrawn for the safety of others or for themselves. They just choose not to go. They have to be at school.
And really sadly, like you're saying, sometimes you see these very same children accompanied by their parents out there, and nothing. There is nothing to, well, the parents can be held accountable, but what are really the consequences of their actions? Nothing
Exactly.
really.
So, all of those, and we should make sure that we give our children scientific knowledge, technical knowledge. We foster the creative arts. When you see the school is engaging in several activities, participating in several things, it's because we are ensuring that we fulfill those rights for the children. Give them every opportunity to shine because you don't know whose talent lies where. And that brings us to Article 29, where education is supposed to encourage the development of a child's personality. You have to work with the different personalities you have and make them find the best in them. For instance, students who are prone to gang behavior, they're great leaders. They know cooperative principles because they can group together and stay together and well firm and strong. You have to know how to nurture that positively. Okay, so it is the responsibility of the state to ensure that that is done. The children's talents. And I hope that when we try to promote our girls' talents on December 5th, we have people in the community who come to support. Not everything is about making money. You have to give the children an opportunity to put themselves, to shine, to do something that they love. Fashion, creativity is part of life too. It makes lots of money.
And I'm happy to hear you speak on that, Miss Combi, because you'll have the negative comments about these that you're showcasing the girls, you're making them put themselves out there. But where is the positive in it? To build the self confidence and the self esteem and allow them to portray their talents.
Yes,
So,
as a matter of fact, the students who came up with our talent show, their aim was to allow for female empowerment and for everybody to know that beauty matches talent. So it's called kaleidoscope because a kaleidoscope is like a tube of various things happening in there, like a whole scientific experiment. So at Super Comprehensive, we're a whole kaleidoscope of beautiful things. And so we want
into
all
that.
of our beautiful things to be out on show. And when you said that a while ago, I don't understand why that would be a problem. Because one of the things I find challenging about we don't do for our children is to make them know what they're good at.
So true.
If you ask an adult, what are your strengths? They shy away from telling you. Because I think it's psychological as a nation, we don't like to talk about what we're good at. There's a difference between knowing what you're good at and being boastful.
Exactly. Because
Mwen sa pale pou whole jounen, mwen sa fe show sa pou entire jounen, mwen sa pale. Because I'm good at expressing myself. Other people know just as much, but they do not like to speak out loud or in public. So that's not their strength. We all have strengths. And I want my students to know that.
the strengths of
That their strengths should be nurtured into something positive as much as possible. We have our strengths and we have the challenges within ourselves. Okay, so that's one of the articles for education. The school is supposed to do that for the students and have them develop their mental and physical abilities as well. Those who tell me, Miss, I cannot run, how you know that? Where did you run to go? You have to try. Okay, so you have to, it's not forcing, but they do not yet know everything about themselves. You have to give them the opportunity to discover. And so I would love for parents to support as much as possible our teenagers. I can advocate for my age group because in primary school and infant school, they're a little bit more supported.
And I'm
Yes.
happy to hear you say that, Ms. Coffee, because too many times, as a former teacher myself, you hear, especially during sports, you hear parents say, "Don't make my child run, my child will fall." I don't want, for true.
But you
They
must fall in
do,
life to know how
they
to
do,
stand up.
they
Eh?
do.
If you never
And
fall,
it's
you will know how to
like,
pick up yourself.
definitely. And you find parents are so discouraging because the children come and say, "Mommy, Daddy, I don't want to run." It's like, "Don't make my child run. I don't want to do this." "Okay, baby, don't do it." How then would you discover what your child is good at?
Yeah.
So parents, please encourage your children. Even like my son today, there's a road race at Solibus tomorrow. And he's like, "Mommy, you know I cannot run." I said, "No, how do you know that? Go on the road, I'll be there to encourage you." Abayo look and said, "Okay, my boy." He said, "Okay, Mommy." So you have to
Yes.
encourage them.
And you have to make them know it's okay to not be great at everything.
So
We
that
cannot
you
all
won't
be great.
win.
So the student would get A plus, A plus, A plus. All of our students will not get A plus in science or at a particular thing. But if you put them in something that they love, they will get A plus in it because that's where their forte lies. And we have to teach our children that everybody is valuable.
Exactly.
It's just that we have different abilities and we want to be
We need to
supported to
nurture
nurture
that.
our different abilities. And that's part of the children's right. So it gives parents a big, big, big responsibility, which I'm hoping that they understand.
Have to look at this program.
Yes, we have the right education. In the right to education, we also supposed to ensure that the students develop respect for the parents. We respect the parents and the children develop respect for their parents. Is a tall order, but we have to. We also have to help them develop respect for their cultural identity, languages, and values.
Very importantly.
So you don't tell students don't speak Kwe or don't celebrate the La Marguerite, don't understand why we celebrate masquerade. Nobody's telling you become a masquerade or join the La Marguerite group, but you live in a country and you need to understand what the country is about, what it celebrates. Why do they think the way they do? Because it's about a culture.
Because now here in Halloween is coming in, where they will not celebrate La Marguerite or La Rose, but then you did.
Everybody has a Halloween costume.
Yes.
Okay, so we have to develop another one there in the education, a respect for the natural environment. So with this, we partner a lot. I'd like to take the opportunity to mention that we partner with our PTA president, Miss Sonia Kazabo. If you know her, is an environment lady. Always has the students in something trying to pick up. When you tell students come to clean up, come to protect the environment, some people will hesitate and say they're not sending their children to go and play in, but we put the garbage there.
Or to go pick up
Garbage. We have to teach the children that yes, you didn't put the garbage there, but if the garbage stays there and the storm comes, it may be your house that the water goes with because the water had nowhere to pass. And so we must generate that culture of respecting the natural environment, respecting the environment they're in. Not because the school has janitors that you eat your chicken and you push the bone in the blocks of the wall. And then you have a problem. And then maybe the rats will say, "Boy, we have party at Super Comprehensive in the nights. Let's go and eat all the garbage." You have to teach them these little levels of responsibility. So for me, you see the front of Dover Palapotu, you're in a class I do not care who put the garbage there. That's the front of your yard.
You are responsible.
You have to
parents.
make sure you mind your business and say, hello, you throw that bottle there, pick it up, take it out in front of my classroom, please. Thank you, sir. And if it's there you didn't see, it's your responsibility to clean it. And you
I
have to
agree.
generate that level of responsibility so you don't have problems with your environment. Okay, so
Totally agree with you.
um it says no part of the present article or Article 28 shall be construed so as to interfere with the liberty of individuals and bodies to establish and direct educational institutions. So you should not be afraid to say, I think you should try that in the school, parents. Come to the meetings, give suggestions. And lately, let me thank the parents who come. We have had an increase in the number of parents who come to get the calendar for the term, to hear our highs, to hear our lows, and how we're fixing. And we could always have many more present. Okay, so you have to come to direct that. See how we can build our school. Um, you have to establish and direct the well, subject to the observance of the principles. So ensure that it stays within the realm of you respecting everybody's rights. There's dignity, there's peace. I mean, you cannot say let's introduce shooting guns to the school. So it has to be within a normal, positive way. Okay, so you parents have to come and play your part in the education as well. There are so many things to talk about, miss. So we
And
just
our
on
time is running
education.
out.
Yes.
Yes.
So I just did education. There's also education specifically to persons with disabilities, indigenous people. So that would be our Creole. It should not be frowned upon. It has to be promoted. It does not prevent any learning in English. The students will just be told with two languages. And I love Creole. My mother says I forgot Creole when I went to Delse Combined when I heard it. I forgot English. I just stopped speaking English because it was a beautiful sound. Okay. So, parents, whilst we have what I want to really emphasize in our rights, because we're going to close up, our laws speak to the new protection of, well, not new, it's not new, but we're trying to get ourselves progressively up to that standard where we accept the right. I want you to remember two of them. Children who are accused of breaking the law should not be killed, not be tortured or treated cruelly, put in prison forever if you're committing a crime as a child. However, there should be consequences for misbehavior. Please do not try to save your children from dire consequences, especially if several interventions have been put in place. When they face the consequence and they get the support of the probations, they get the support of the other departments. Sadly, we need more resources to get more of it out there, but allow the students to go through the counseling. Do not turn away the counselor, so that they learn to reform, because they're children. They'll do stupid things because they probably never even thought of the consequence. It was what that struck them at the time, and so this is how they learn for later on. And we have the introduction. I would like everybody to go look at the Child and Justice Act 2018. We just had a conversation with it at Sufre Comprehensive. We have to teach children that they're learning. They make mistakes, you get a consequence, but the focus should be how are we fixing it moving on? I don't owe you the right to just continue life as is. No, we have to stop and say what changes are we making because we've messed up. And we should not be afraid to do that for our children. And finally, a very interesting one is every child has the right to rest, relax, play. That does not mean they play lazy and from school they just lie down in a bed on a phone. And take part in cultural and creative activities. Encourage your children to go out there into positive activities, not drinking strongbow by black hat, but to actually enjoy and see something positive. See the first game and go back home and go and sleep. And it's okay to see, to experience it. My daughter wants to experience a football game and the atmosphere and the hype, but you cannot be at the late game and you're not going without me because I do not know what you're getting out there. So whilst they have to be entertained, parents, we try to do it for them at the school. You have your quail all day, you eat, you drink, you have your quail things, you have your little session. These things are supervised and controlled, and then you go home. I do not want to encourage the show at night for my adolescents. Some people are asking, why are we doing the show in the day? Too many things happen. A lot of us are not responsible enough. So, whilst I must give them the opportunity to shine, to be creative, and to be entertained, we have to do it within a control to protect that right. Especially number three, that all decisions we make must be always in the best interest of the child.
I'm happy to hear that, and thank you so very much, Miss Combi. That was an awesome presentation. I do want a part two of it because we need to educate the public. We need to educate the public not just on the rights, but the responsibilities of that right. Because too many times you hear, even in the school setting, that Ishmani rightly, Mamalani right your professor, your professor, but you are forgetting this little part of it, the responsibility of that right.
And other people have rights too. So whilst you have the right to say what you
Exactly.
want, you don't have the right to curse me up upside down because I have a right to be free from verbal abuse. So all rights have the
They have their
boundaries.
boundaries, and people need to understand that. And I'm happy to hear that you said parents, when they send their children out there, right? Children have a right to be supervised by an adult because that is what constitutes a
Yes.
child. You're
Yes.
not an adult, so you cannot go out there just doing what you want. So parents, when you are going out there and you're taking your children to the sessions, I have my short pants and my child has her short pants. Each of us have our short top and each of us drinking our strongbow. You are going to treat you are going to treat your child as an adult, and tomorrow come to me crying, or Miss come here or somebody and say, she doesn't listen to me, Miss. She's not doing what she's supposed to do. Why should she? She's an adult just like you. This is how you're nurturing her. So parents, be very careful. And again, I'm going to say a huge thank you again to Miss Combi. And this month is our Children's Month. So parents, teachers, principals, social workers as well, pay special attention to children and treat them very nicely. Treat them extra special. Okay.
Yes, and I
So
will be sending a message to how we're treating our children on the 20th. Parents, please support.
most definitely. Thank you again. Thank you for listening. Okay.